Hey out there, legal warriors. I want to talk about the 3 biggest thinking mistakes to avoid if you have a crime in Washington State, or if you know someone in this situation, or you're just interested in psychology and ways to suffer less in life. I'm going to cover that in this video, so stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear, and I'm a lawyer with a defense firm in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people will get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. I've been doing defense work for more than 20 years and prosecution work for 7 years before that. And I've spent a lot of time with clients and a lot of times in counseling and different therapeutic books I've read and things like that. And I've come to learn how the system really works, and I've come to learn how we typically think it should work. And that leads to a lot of unnecessary suffering. The difference between how people think court should work versus how it does work. I always put it this way: expectation minus observation equals frustration. So if you expect a certain thing, you observe something else, the difference is the amount of frustration you suffer, or just suffering. So there's 3 common thinking mistakes to be avoided that I've noticed in doing this type of work for 20 years. So now let's get into that. So the first thinking mistake is to actually think that logic, or like computer science type logic, scientific logic, is actually going to be applied in the criminal justice system. That logic really matters and controls outcomes. And let me tell you, that is just not the case. And the reason for that isn't unique to criminal law, but it's because there are human beings making decisions in the criminal justice system, not some machine or system making those decisions. And so what do you mean, Lance? What do you mean logic doesn't apply? Well, here's what I can often hear from clients, and clients are very justified in feeling this way, but I often hear, Lance, why can't they just see that I'm innocent? Why don't they just talk to me? Why doesn't the prosecutor just look at all the evidence we have and understand that I couldn't have done this? 1 + 1 = 2, Lance. Well, that assumes a lot of things that aren't so about the system. The first thing we have to realize that the system is not neutral. This is not a quest for truth. This is not Star Trek seeking out new frontiers and new civilizations. This is more like, unfortunately, it's a little bit more like politics, where there's one side takes a position, the prosecution position and the police position, and the other side, the defense, takes the defense position. There is no default where we are just seeking truth, and therefore there's some neutral arbiter who's going to decide what happened. Guess what? The judge, who we think is supposed to be neutral, and hopefully is, doesn't typically get to decide what happened, right? Most cases don't get to a trial. So we have this prosecutor who is taking one position, and the defense is taking another position, and it's not quite as strong as politics, where someone can't be talked out of something, but it's still pretty close. And therefore, things besides what actually happened are more important, believe it or not, than our version of the facts of what actually happened. And that's very frustrating. So many people work in the sciences. I have an engineering degree as my undergrad, so I understand how people feel that, but why don't they just look at it fairly? Well, it's because it's sort of pre-programmed for one side versus the other. So if we can get out of our head that logic is what controls things, then we're more free to free up our mind to think about what actually controls outcomes. And some part of it is logic, but it's secondary to some of the other things that are driving cases. So Lance, how come a prosecutor doesn't just look at everything? Well, for those of you that haven't been a prosecutor, it's a really hard job. Your defense attorney may have a handful of cases. The prosecutor has every case in that courtroom. And that is a crushing burden. They have victims talking to them, victims happy with them, victims mad at them, police happy with them, police mad at them. the court happy with them, the court mad at them, and more cases coming in all the time. And they're a person with a life, with kids, with a family, with illnesses, with vacations, with ups and downs, right? And so you can't assume that a prosecutor is just going to read everything and know everything. In fact, they don't and they can't. And I think any expectation that they will makes sense, but it's sort of out of touch with how the job really works. So we do run into situations where we get frustrated, where we just know that, hey, there's no way to get enough time, enough of that prosecutor's mental energy in many cases, especially higher level cases, to get them to see our point of view. So that's something that you want to remember, is avoid the thinking error that there's some, automatic, huge amount of effort going on the prosecution side to figure out what's true or to look at our point of view. So a really good attorney, and hopefully you have one or a team of attorneys, tries to make it easy for the prosecutor to see a different point of view in how we write a letter, or how we get the client put in a situation where now the prosecutor is more able to see that a client's done some classes or something and feel better about putting a little bit of energy in listening to another point of view. But what typically turns outcomes in cases is getting the situation to a good enough situation where the prosecutor feels good enough about lightening their caseload and giving a resolution that everybody finds reasonable, because they have the power. They can take any case they want to trial, and as we know, jurors tend to convict people, even innocent people, and we've all watched enough TV shows to know that. So get out of your head that logic commands the outcome. Logic is important, but secondarily so to other things that drive cases, and a really experienced and savvy attorney who has emotional intelligence will be able to do the right things to apply all of these principles to try to get a result. So that's number one. I think the second biggest thinking error to avoid is that your life is over. Avoid the thinking problem of catastrophizing the situation, because in the very rare circumstance of major life-changing felonies, our life is not over because we're accused of a crime. If you're watching this video, that means you're trying to get educated, that you want to try to do what you can to make sure that doesn't happen. But our brains are programmed in sort of fight or flight, and sometimes that flight part is freaking out and staying up at night and looking at Lawyer Google about everything that's going to happen to us. And again, don't look at Lawyer Google. Criminal law is very local, okay? One court may do things one way, or one prosecutor, and a court down the street with the same crime does it totally differently. So you can't look at all the scary things on Google that are out there, because again, many attorneys are trying to scare people to try to ramp up fear to try to generate business. So that isn't really helpful. You have to realize that we feel like it's all or nothing. We feel like it's life or death. We feel like it's no end in sight. But that's not true. That's how we're designed to feel to survive, but those aren't accurate. Your case is one of thousands, if not tens of thousands, that the prosecutor has seen before, that your defense attorney has seen before, and there's no reason for your case, in almost every situation, to be treated more harshly than another case if things are done correctly. So try to just realize that that's a normal feeling, but use some other techniques to tamp down on that. You can meditate, you can read a book. I always recommend The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz to really put things in perspective in life. You can talk to an attorney who can give you a real idea of what to expect, and look for a highly rated attorney where clients have said good things about them, because if you call the wrong one, it'll just make it worse. But the second thinking error then is thinking your life is over. It's not. I've dealt with 20, 30,000 different people, and no one's life is over yet. The third thing that you have to avoid for thinking errors, that I could pick a few different ones, but I think the third one is believing that your case is being hyper focused on by the prosecution, that the court's out to get you, that the prosecutor's out to get you, that type of thing. That's a big thinking, and I'm covering the thinking errors that cause the most suffering. Okay, and I think having this idea that everybody's out to get you in this case is one that's really harmful. It's harmful to your mental health. It's harmful to being able to sleep at night. It's just a thing you want to avoid, because again, I can tell you as living proof, I was a prosecutor for 7 years, that these police reports, they're just names to the prosecutor. They don't know you. They weren't involved in the situation. It's just a two-dimensional report, okay? Now, occasionally now we're getting more body cams, which could be a little more risky if a prosecutor has time to watch it. They might feel activated by some emotions and therefore, cue in on a case a little more. But if you realize that if you haven't given the prosecutor a reason to care by some type of terrible behavior in court, it's just another file, right? The prosecutors, the judges, the defense attorneys in the system, we're all desensitized, right? To someone outside of the system, to your first time, you can see, oh my God, that's so salacious, it's so terrible. Well, 24/7, that's all the people in the criminal system see. So don't fall prey to the belief that some paranoia, some rational but not accurate belief that everybody's out to get you because of the situation. There may be some people that have a side opposite to yours, but it is not personal, and hopefully they're not putting any more effort into your case than any other one. That's important to remember. So I could keep going on, but I try to keep these videos about this link. So hopefully you found this useful, and hopefully you've taken something from this where you're going to be able to get through a criminal case in the future, the one that you're dealing with now, or to help someone else with less suffering than you would have otherwise. So if that's true, please like and please subscribe. More people will get the help they need. And more importantly, if you're in a criminal situation, feel free to reach out to my firm. I've been defending people charged with crimes for more than 20 years. You can give us a call. We'll listen to what happened. We can identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.